Hi, my name's Daniel McLaughlin, and welcome to my YouTube channel, where we talk about all things related to music, guitar, production, and recording. Today let's talk about one technique that is the secret to making you sound like a professional guitar player. And that secret is really good time. Now that could be time feel, timing in general, internal clock. There's a lot of different names for it. A really great sense of time is one thing that all phenomenal musicians, all phenomenal guitarists have in common. And at some point or another, they've all worked on it. So let's talk about how to develop a really good sense of time. And make sure to stick around to the end where I teach you how to make good time sound great. So the stereotype with guitarists is actually that we all kind of are terrible at two things. That is reading music and having good time. So being a guitar player that has really great time makes you competitive already. And it's a quick way of getting you to that extra mile area where not all guitar players live. A couple guitar players off the top of my head that have really great time are guitar players like Prince, John Mayer, Mateus Asado. But what is time and how do we practice it? There's a couple schools of thought here. The biggest thing is that time is not something that you're necessarily born with. You can definitely work on your time and improve it. Jacob Collier actually shocked the music world when he was able to perform with other musicians over Instagram Live because he gauged the latency that was separating the two musicians, and he adjusted his performance to that exact latency. That's a really crazy level of time feel. But Jacob Collier actually has a really good sense of time, and quite frankly I think that comes from his use of various time signatures in his music. He's typically known for using a lot of polyrhythms, and he's kind of a timing genius. But playing in weirder time signatures like 5/4 or 7/8 can actually help you develop that sense of time, especially in the simpler time signatures like 4/4 and 3/4. The one thing you need in developing a sense of time is some sort of rock-steady reference like a metronome to keep you in time. A digital metronome is preferred, but anything that consistently delivers tempo is going to help you out in your time. You could also practice over a simple drum beat, especially varying some of the grooves will help you get acclimated to playing with different musicians and different styles of music. But a metronome is what we have today. So here are some simple and then complex exercises that you can use to help you get better at time. So to play an exercise that sounds a little bit more musical, we're going to play a chord like E9 on the 2 and the 4 of the beat. This is accenting where the snare drum would normally hit in a backbeat rhythm. So this is actually a rhythm that you could play as a guitar player often. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can also play on the 1 and the 3 of the beat. That sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can continue to work with the beat to work on various subdivisions. There's a pretty common exercise with 16th notes where you vary on which 16th note you play. I'll demonstrate that right now. So we're working with 16th notes here. So I'm going to count out all 16th notes as 1 eana, 2 eana, 3 eana, 4 eana to get us into the exercise, and then I'm just going to play off of each subdivision. Here we go. 1 eana, 2 eana, 3 eana, 4 eana. So these kinds of exercises you can use while warming up, while watching TV, while talking to people, while making lunch, and they're just simple things that'll help you develop really good time. Now there are a couple exercises that are pretty niche that develop really specific parts of your time that we can talk about right now that are fun but also pretty grueling. So we're going to work on refining your internal clock, and for this I'm going to kind of guide you through an exercise here. This is going to take place at 120 beats per minute. So if we're doing 120 beats per minute, in the span of 1 minute, we have 120 beats. That means that we can count 120 beats, and if we're as accurate as a metronome, that should take 60 seconds exactly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count in 2 bars of 120 BPM quarter notes. And at the time that 2 bars ends, I'm going to start a timer. internally, and then I'm going to give you 60 seconds of undisturbed silence. During that time, you should be counting to 120, hopefully as close to 120 BPM as possible, and then you are going to clap at the very end of that 120 count, which should be 60 seconds. Hopefully that makes sense. Some strategy here would be to feel the pulse of a 4/4 beat. So in my head, when I do this exercise, I'm thinking to myself, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And in internalizing that beat, you should be able to be fairly accurate. All right, here we go. 2 bars on top. I'll count you in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, pretty tough, huh? Let me know in the comments down below how you did. So now, while that's something that helps your internal clock, this is another exercise that helps your timing authority, time awareness, and just general comfortability with holding your own time. Now, there are specific apps that will help you along with this, one of which is an app called Time Guru that I really like. So this exercise is actually ascending subdivisions. So more time is going to pass in between the time when we're able to sync our clock with the metronome clock. This exercise is going to aid in helping establish a more confident internal clock, as well as just helping register the time difference in between each subdivision. And this is actually a tricky exercise to explain, so it may help to watch it once and then return back to this point in the video to actually do the exercise. We're going to use E9 chord stabs for every subdivision that I call out while we're doing the exercise. We're going to do 8 bars of each. We're going to start with half notes, then we're going to move to whole notes, and then we're going to see if we can do a whole note tied to another whole note. So the duration of 2 bars we're going to count in our head. We're at 120 BPM. We're going to start with half notes. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that was pretty easy. What we're going to do now is we're actually going to take away some of the metronome clicks. So it's going to get marginally difficult. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. So that may have been easy, that may have been more difficult. Now we're going to play whole notes. So the metronome's not going to change, we're going to change. We're just playing whole notes. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was it. It's starting to get a little bit more tricky. We're starting to rely more on ourselves rather than the metronome. Now we're going to take away that half note reference. So we have a click happening every whole note. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, probably kind of tough. It's starting to get a little bit more difficult for me. Now we are only going to play every 2 bars. So we have a whole note tied to a whole note. Okay, so we have one reference click here. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that was 8 bars. We only had to play 4 times. Okay, but it's getting more and more difficult. Now is the hardest one. We are going to take away that last reference click. So we are going to have a click happening every 2 bars, basically a whole note tied to a whole note, and then we are only going to play on that click, so every 2 bars. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, that's the exercise. That's quite the crazy exercise, and you can take it as far as you need to. Now, hopefully those timing exercises were helpful. I've used them for many years. The nice thing about some of these exercises is you actually don't need to use them with a guitar all the time. You can tap your fingers on a table, you can clap to yourself, you can drive and tap your thumb on the steering wheel. Just make sure you're paying attention while you're driving. But the biggest thing that you want to keep in mind when working on your time is you want to make sure you are working on your feel as well as your time. Now, having metronomic or quantized time is not something that I think we as humans could ever reach. But that's a good thing, because we as humans also like to hear mistakes. We also like to hear just kind of the push and pull of time as played by another human. It's part of the reason why we can sometimes hear programmed drums in comparison to a live drummer. But how does this relate to feel, and how can we make everything that we play feel super good? But how do you make it feel good? I mean, it's kind of an elusive thing. It's not something that we can put into words what feel is. But my tip to you is just play along with good feeling records. Put on any track that makes you dance a little bit, tap your foot, snap your fingers, and just play along with it. Some of the old Motown stuff or early funk, I mentioned Prince records. Some modern people, Wolfpack, for example, always feels really good. So just play along with good groove, good feel, and I promise you, timing will get better and you will sound like a pro in no time. And hold on, one more thing. Just a recommendation. I would be very wary about using a looper of any kind without a metronome. I do think that loop stations and boomerangs and ditto loopers, anything of the sort, can contribute to having bad time if you play with them over a long period of time. This is because you're getting used to bad time or not perfect time, and it will be similar to if you were practicing with a broken metronome. Just a little word of caution, be careful. But anyway, thank you so much for watching the video. Make sure to like and subscribe. Go ahead and follow me on Instagram at Daniel McLaughlin Music, and I will see you in the next one.